is KIC Radio.
Hello and welcome back to the South Bank podcast. I'm joined by the ever-present Cameron Gorman.
Hello, good to see you, Jacob.
Good to see you as well. I'm, of course, your host, Jacob Jones. We'd like to apologise. Last week there was not an episode. This is out of our control. There was one recorded, but unfortunately, factors with just audio and visually messing up that no one could control stopped us from putting an episode out last week. But we are back, and what a joy it's going to be to talk about Wolverhampton Wanderers again. Cam, football, how have you been doing?
I've not been too bad, mate, to be honest. Actually didn't make the travel down midweek for our fixture against Chelsea, which is a rare occurrence. However, was quite glad throughout the game that I didn't. But at the end of the day, it actually ended up being quite an entertaining fixture. Not sure the same could be said about Sunday, but I'm sure we'll briefly cover both of them.
Yeah, so we'll start with Burnley very brief, because obviously it was a while ago and don't want to relive it. Cam, this was a game where when people asked me, do you think Wolves are destined for relegation? I was hesitant to say before this game, but I said if we lose on Sunday against Burnley, I think our destination is pretty cut and dry, and we lost in the most painful way possible. You know, a last-minute goal from Laura Foster after working our way back into the game. It was ugly scenes after the 90 minutes. And Cam, was this right on the wall for you, do you think?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Jacob. Personally, to go off topic slightly, I saw a clip from Mick McCarthy's podcast, obviously familiar face for all of us at Wolves. And he was saying when a team is conceding those kind of goals in the 90th minute, despite coming back, despite working hard to get a win, that's how you know a team is almost destined for relegation. And I really struggle to see where in previous years we've had quality in the players in the squad. I don't think we have that same kind of calibre of player there now. And when I think Vitor Pereira is making questionable decisions game by game and is getting the subs and arguably the tactics wrong as well, I think the writing, like you say, is well and truly on the wall. I think despite Burnley being better than us on the day, they again didn't have to get into second gear. I think that's the most worrying thing, really, when teams are showing up at Molineux and not really having to up their level to beat us. However, Burnley are still, despite their pretty good form as of late, one of the weakest teams in the league. And when you're losing to them at home in that manner, I think it's extremely concerning.
Yeah, and it's not just Burnley. Obviously, we've played all three newly promoted teams since the start of the season.
I lost every single one.
I remember in the international break, we said a minimum of 4 points out of Sunderland and Burnley. We've ended up with 0. So, yeah, it's not great. But despite very ugly scenes at full time, and for me, feeling like it was the nail in the coffin for Vitor Pereira, reports came out more or less immediately straight after the final whistle that Vitor Pereira was under no pressure as Wolverhampton Wanderers manager, which I find absolutely baffling, Cameron. I think if we cast our minds back 12 months ago, the same story was happening with Gary O'Neill, where it took way too long to get him out the door. Cam, is this the same scenario for you? Should Vitor Pereira have took charge last night against Chelsea, and should he be taking charge on Saturday against Fulham?
Should have been gone, but he'll probably be there for Fulham, and if we get anything against Fulham, he's there for at least 5 more games, let's be honest. I think it's the same situation we had with Gary O'Neill last year, if I'm honest. I remember, and I know you'll remember too, when we lost 4-0 to Everton. Gary O'Neill refusing to acknowledge the fans, booing them, arguing with some. And Vitor Pereira, exactly the same note. Fosun then didn't take action and it almost cost us. You would have thought they'd learned from their mistakes. Whilst some of the reports I've seen have highlighted that Jeff Shee is sick of the whole cycle of sacking managers, I think the one time he actually really should be doing it, he's getting it all wrong. And I don't think you can go and argue and berate fans and call them out in your press conference after the game for your own managerial shortcomings, the wrong subs, wrong tactics. There's been reports of obviously the players not necessarily agreeing with his team selection either. And when you've got that much disgruntlement in both the fan base and the player camp, I think it really shows that you are the common denominator. And I don't understand why exactly he keeps getting away with it. And I don't understand how he still has a job. I get he likes to go for a pint, but that doesn't make him a good manager just because he's a good person necessarily. And I really think the Wolves hierarchy need to sort themselves out. But that's the same story we say every week, isn't it? So that's why nothing changes.
Yeah. So we did have a game after Burnley, of course, last night. We bowed out of the Carabao Cup to Chelsea at home. Of course, a tough tie, but ultimately one that I felt coming out of it was there for the taking, which is what's frustrating. But we need to talk about the first half firstly. 11 changes from the side that faced Burnley on Sunday, I think
Yeah.
really shown Vitor's intent for this game. I think maybe rightly so, the Carabao Cup not priority at the minute, but it was still a game that we could have used to breathe confidence.
I think personally, I think
Yeah.
a lot of Wolves fans actually would have wanted to see us play a stronger 11 in this game, though. The Carabao Cup has kind of been a getaway for us all this year. And you're not exactly going to go on holiday and take your old clothes, are you? That's the way I view it. A bit of a weird metaphor, but...
No, but of course, 6 defenders were named in the starting lineup. However,
strange.
Emmanuel Agbadou seemed to be playing a CDM role in the first half. And Cam, I don't know about you, but I didn't mind it as such. I think Agbadou didn't do too bad in this role. Granted, you could tell it wasn't his natural role. He looked a bit out of place at times, but I think ultimately did okay in that sense and was not that it was a high bar at all. One of our better players in the first half. But like I say, an absolute abysmal first half for Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yeah, I don't think there is any positives you can really spin on this first half. You highlight Agbadou. Whilst I don't disagree necessarily with what you're saying, I think that just shows the awful recruitment, really. We let so many midfielders go. And in a game like that, if you were trying to make a change, you shouldn't be having to play one of your centre-backs, who was previously your first-choice centre-back, in midfield. Regardless of if he had an okay game or not, Agbadou is a player who has not been in his best form this year. He's been far off the mark as far as his usual standards are concerned. And I don't think him playing in midfield is neither an answer nor something that should be happening at all, if I'm honest. And I know you'll agree on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it definitely shows the lack of depth we've got at the football club. But Cameron, the scoreline was not pretty in the first half. Goals from Esteval, Tyreek George, and who scored the other one in the first half? It was Esteval, George, and Gittins, was it?
No,
Or did he
getting
have
scored in the
another one
second half.
Anyway, we found ourselves 3-0 down regardless at half time. And Cameron, this is where I want to
Oh, it was
say to
Andre
you,
Santos with the
it
first.
was Andre Santos,
Apologies.
yeah. But Cam, you sat next to me at Wolves for 10 years plus,
Yeah.
barring this season, because obviously the moves. And I don't think I've ever done this before. Half time, I decided I'm not coming back for the
No,
second half.
I've never seen this man leave.
You could probably count on
Well,
one hand how many times I've left for the final whistle. Never mind.
most of those are usually because you've got to beat the traffic or something, and we're losing 3-0 in like the 90th minute. You're just not saying for stoppage time. Yeah, very rare occurrence to see this man leave a football game early. And like I said at the start, quite rare occurrence for me to not bother going to a home game. I usually always make the travel back home. And I think that's really saying a lot about expectations of Wolves at the moment. But how can you blame it purely on expectation when we are in the position of being 3-0 down at half time at home? And whilst I understand we played a rotated side, Chelsea played their C-string team and won this game 4-3. Like their C team, effectively. Bar Cucurella coming on in the second half, they did not have to put any of their first teamers in danger of this match. Even Pedro Neto only making a brief cameo. And it was just very disappointing when I saw their lineup, saw how rotated it is, and realised that they'd still beat us. Because our team is just that poor at the moment. I also want to say, to further my disgruntlement on our starting lineup, I was extremely disappointed with some of the roles he had players playing, notably Agbadu, like we've already said, but I was very disappointed in his treatment of Fer Lopez, playing him in an unfamiliar position, in a kind of almost sixth position, which was extremely worrying
You
for a
could see he
guy.
struggled with it a lot.
Of course he would, though. He's new, is still adapting to the league due to limited minutes, and he's a winger or an
Yeah.
attacking midfielder, and he's been playing way too deep in the pitch. You see it in the third goal, in which I personally blame Jose Sarr for that goal, as well as the first goal. I think Jose Sarr had another torrid time and has just further proved why he should not be our starting keeper this season. But yeah, I was quite unhappy with Vittel's treatment of him there. I think it was. I was also unhappy that he was playing Jackson, a rather winger type role again, until he transitioned later in the half. I was also unhappy with Vitor Pereira for subbing on Rodrigo Gomez and then immediately taking up at half time.
Only had a knock.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense, because I thought otherwise that's very unfair treatment and would surely hook his confidence.
Yeah, apparently had a knock. But my point being, kind of about leaving early, that just shows the disconnect with the football. Obviously, you very rarely not making the journey down to watch it. I just felt, like I say, a disconnect. I thought I'd rather sit in the pub and watch the second half than sit here, granted in the cold and whatnot. And I'm usually the last person to do that. Like I say, I'm making the trip to Fulham. We've made trips away this year, but I just can't they're not showing me anything to get behind at the minute, and I think I'm not the only one that feels this way. A lot of fans either not bothering or leaving early yesterday. However, I think I got a bit of poetic justice because the second half was a lot better for Wolves. I think we started off very well. A good goal from Tolu. Um, must say, their bit of praise for Hwang Chan, who's brilliant for this goal.
Yeah.
To get the ball, play it through to Tolu, who finishes it well past the keeper. It set us up for a better second half, I think. Obviously, David Moller Wolf, his best performance by far in a Wolves shirt. I think dangerous going
Yeah.
forward. Obviously, he got his 2 goals, but the big changer for me was introducing Cressy. I think he
Yeah.
made Mosquera a lot better next to him, speaking to him. I think them two did well together. And Cam, I mean, it was a missed opportunity in the second half, wasn't it? Because we had Chelsea on the ropes.
Yeah, I completely agree. To further on from what you've just said, I think Cressy yesterday really further proved what we already believed, really, at least on this podcast. But he is by far our best player. He's worth whatever money they want for him. We have to keep that man, regardless of if we go down or not, because we would easily make a profit on a player of such caliber. He is so good. And without him, Wolves absolutely have zero tick. They have no idea, and he kind of orchestrates everything from the back or in midfield, wherever he has to play. I think, while in a sense it's still worrying that a centre half is kind of the one dictating your play, I think Ladislav Krejci is just phenomenal. And to further on with what you said about the goal, however, I thought it's just far too easy for this goal. Even Wolves' goal for Tolu, the Chelsea defending was not the greatest. Malo Gusto was extremely far out of position, leaving Toku with the space to just take up. And while an excellent finish, I think Tolu yesterday also proved exactly why he has to start. Obviously, we'd already alluded to the fact on previous episodes that he's feeding off scraps anyway, and he's coming on in the 90th minute and he's still making a difference. I think that speaks volumes, but he's a player who clearly hasn't had his confidence knocked by anything. He could have had a hat-trick last night, if I'm honest, with the amount of chances he'd had, and that's not putting a downer on his performance. Some of the chances were not even half chances, and there he was making them look like good attempts.
The only counter I have to this is obviously a very, very poor back pass for the first goal for Chelsea. Did not have to play it first time or
Agreed,
attempt to play it first time. But I agree, his all-round performance was showing more than what Stan Larson has this year.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think Larson's been very weak, and Tolu is actually the hold-up striker we need if that's the style of play we're trying to do, instead of watching Larson just back into the opposition and fall over on his bum. But I think Tolu really for that first goal. While I completely agree, he sent the ball much further back than he should have. I think the midfield and defence are just so easily cut open. But literally all Andre Santos had to do was drive in on the left-hand side, and he's a left-footed player. How are you allowing him a shot at goal that easy? I also think it should have been a routine save for Jose Sarr.
Yeah.
I don't understand how he let that in.
Yeah, definitely. But unfortunately, despite putting the pressure on Chelsea, sending Chelsea down to 10 men, I thought very clever from Yerson Mosquera in the head of Liam Delap as soon as he got on. Getting Chelsea down to 10 men, it was Chelsea he would strike next. Let's not beat around the bush. A fantastic strike from Gittins in at the post. Nothing Jose Sarr could do about this one, but the frustration comes from, once again, Wolves lose the ball off our own throw-in, the same way we lost to Burnley, our own throw-in, and then a header. I don't know if you noticed this, Cameron. A header travels about 3 bounces through our midfield before it ends up at the feet of Gittins, who's unmarked, and it's nothing away from the finish, but the easiest shot he's going to get off this season in terms of actually getting the shot away. He's under no pressure at all, and he proved why Chelsea paid the money for him with the strike. But he should not be able to get this away. It's so sloppy again for Wolves, and once again, it's cost us a game.
I feel like it's half and half with what you're saying there. I feel like usually they wouldn't feel threatened by allowing someone to have a shot from that position. You did nine times out of 10 that goes wide or over the crossbar, and this is like that 1 in 100 shot. But it's reminiscent of that Papis Cisse goal at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah.
And it was just such a goal. I actually was just like, wow, when I saw it. I couldn't even be mad. Ultimately, it did bail Chelsea out the game, which is the rather annoying part, though. So I really do understand what you're saying. I think it's ridiculous that we can't even do a throw-in. How many goals have we conceded from throw-ins this year? Probably more than I've ever seen.
2 this week.
Yeah, 2 this week, and that's probably more than I've seen in the last 5 years. It feels like you just I don't understand how you can go so quickly from having them all in your hands, and then it's in the back of your own net. It's schoolboy stuff, really.
Yeah, but the response from Wolves was good, I suppose.
Yeah.
The ball once again worked out to David Moller-Wolf, whose shot is deflected, but it does go past Jorgensen goal. And suddenly it's 4-3 and Wolves are right back in the game. But despite Wolves continuing to push, I think the 4th goal had ultimately put the seal on it, and Wolves exited the Carabao Cup. Now, Cam, you mentioned earlier the Carabao Cup being the escape, but I suppose if we look at it maturely, Saturday is the more important game.
No,
but
I completely agree.
At the same token, it would have bred so much confidence to pull ourselves back into this kind of game against respectable opposition and the champions of the world, Chelsea. But yeah, ends 4-3, and Cam, all we can do is look ahead to Saturday. So what are your thoughts? Fulham away. Fulham aside with quality, but probably in a fourth position. When I watch them at the minute, I think they have played better in games than what they suggest, particularly the Chelsea game sticks out to me. I remember watching them against Aston Villa as well, where they were a lot better than the scoreline suggests. They were better than Villa for at least 70 minutes of that game. So what are you thinking coming into this game?
I kind of half agree with you there. I think Fulham, while I do agree that I feel like their position is not false. I think while they have played much better than their performances suggest, and they're by no means in the kind of position we are, they have identity, they have tactics. I think Marco Silva's kind of been throwing a little tantrum, if I'm honest, at the start of this season. He made it very clear in the summer that he wanted a lot more signings, and he only got some of them. And while expensive, he's kind of refused to play a lot of them, and he's only now starting to play the likes of Kevin, who has been brilliant, and he's been persisting with the likes of players that they're not trying to see, playing players out of position. Like I've been seeing a lot of Fulham fans complaining about how he keeps playing Iwobi out on the left-hand side when they all clearly know he's their best centre mid, really. And when he was playing there for the last 20 minutes or so in that match against Villa, you mentioned they were terrific. And
Yeah.
I think it's more so Marco Silva's been making a few mistakes, but he seems to be learning, even in their midweek fixture also. While it wasn't the best result with them being taken to penalties by Wickham, they have a clear identity there, and the answers are within their squad. And I still expect them to find that tick against us because, let's be honest, you don't have to be great to beat Wolves at the moment. Obviously, some fans probably hoping to a result reminiscent of our visit to Craven Cottage last year when we were in similar terrible form and just pulled a win out the bag with some wonder goals. But I think a win like that was more so down to Mateus Cunha himself, if I'm honest.
I was going to say. Yeah, we don't have
I don't hold out that same hope. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have the players there anymore. Obviously, Mario Lemina was fantastic that game as well. Obviously, no longer here also.
When he played centre half.
Yeah, 3 of the 4 goal scorers. Obviously, Gonzalo Guedes not here either. So I don't think we have the quality this year. Hopefully we can, but I think when I look at that Fulham team, they do have quality in there. Josh King is someone I'm a massive fan of.
Yeah, he's so good.
Terrific footballer. Obviously, we know the qualities that, whilst inconsistent, Adama Traore and Raul Jimenez can produce. We know players like Harry Wilson, who apparently we've rejected to sign this week, which is
I was going to bring that up after.
Absolutely ludicrous. Can obviously hit balls on set pieces. I think it's going to be another tough afternoon for Wolves travelling to Craven Cottage. I am making the travel, unfortunately, just simply for a ground I haven't done. And I don't think I'm going to get the chance to do it for a few years if we seem to be going the way we seem to be going.
Hey, I wouldn't be surprised.
So, Cam, can I get a prediction off you for this Fulham game?
I don't even want to because we know what the result's going to be. I'm just going to say 2-1 Fulham. Hopefully it's a bit more respectable this week. But my concern is, as daft as it sounds, I almost don't want us to have a narrow defeat. If we lose, I want us to get trounced so Vitor gets sacked. I'm really just done with him being in the job. I think when you have an outburst like that, the fans, people like myself are just never going to get behind you again.
I understand your point where you're coming from. I'm obviously reminiscent of last year, El Sacico, as it was dubbed, us against West Ham. A lot of Wolves fans want us to lose that. I never usually find myself doing that. I want Vitor to turn it around personally.
He won't.
I agree that he shouldn't be here, and I fully agree with you, but I'm not going into games thinking, let's get battered. I'm going to try and stay as optimistic as possible and hope for a 1-1 draw. But realistically, I know that's probably not going to happen. But that's going to be my prediction. Any little grain of positivity I have left is going into that prediction. Do I believe it myself? Probably not, no. But that's mine going into it. Is there anything else you wanted to go over before we wrap up?
I don't think so, really. Apologies if you're making the journey down to Craven Cottage this weekend. My thoughts are with you and you, Jacob. Honestly, though, I just think that we've got to enjoy it while we can, being in the Prem. So I'm quite enjoying watching us find a new way to lose each week.
It's almost like there should be a section like Paddy Power. How will Wolves lose this week?
Yeah.
It would make a fortune, honestly. But I think that's everything. Cameron, I'd like to wish you a very happy birthday, because by the next time we record,
thank you very much.
You will have celebrated your birthday. Let's hope your sake Wolves can turn up on Saturday. Is a little late birthday present for you, but
don't get me excited. I have no confidence, but I would not complain. Hopefully my birthday wish comes true.
Yeah, me and everyone at the Southbank Podcast would like to thank you for your ever-present service and wish you the best birthday possible.
Thank you very much.
Look at anything to do with Wolverhampton Wanderers. But that's from me, your host, Jacob Jones. Massive thank you once again to Cameron Gorman for joining me. And we will see you next time. Ciao.
Thank you very much.
This is KIC Radio.